Hi, and welcome back to class, R for Journalists. We are going to go deeper into making our markdown files. So let's make sure our working directory is set. I am in this one. And let's see. Let's start out by generating a report with Boston City Payroll. Let's look at data tables. So let's create a new R markdown file and call it chunk1. Leave author blank for now, and delete everything below the YAML section. And we're going to save this as 01_chunk. If you get lost, you can go to the folder chunks folder, and it's already there. All the files we're going to create, so don't worry. Okay, but first we are going to bring in some code that I've put into the site, and I'll walk you through it. You got a section called loading, and we're going to load the packages, tidyverse, and so make sure you have tidyverse installed first, because if you try to run a markdown and it's not loading correctly, you don't have the packages installed, then our markdown will not generate correctly. So let's just quickly run through that. Payroll. Some conflicts, but it's fine. We can move on. Let's see. We're using data table, and this is how it looks like rendered on here. Great. But for now, let us click knit and run knit to HTML, and let's see what comes out. Chunk1, and then it's got our code, and it's got a bunch of output that we saw over here, and it actually saved it to the HTML file. And so it takes a while before we finally get to the table, and it's quite long. Okay, so let's take care of let's handle each challenge individually. So let's start another markdown file, and this time call it chunk2. And I'm going to copy and paste the same code over as before. Delete the old one. And this time I'm going to add a few more arguments. So for one, I want to get rid of these things, right? These messages and warnings. To do that, you add to the chunk label warning equals capital F for false, and message equals capital F for false. Alright, so that's step one, and I think that will do it. Last one is also warning down here, because it'll say here, it seems your data is too big. And that's true. I mean, 5,000 rows of data is kind of a lot for a browser to process. So I'm going to add warning F for now, and then deal with that later. Okay, so we're going to call this O2_chunk. And render that as HTML. Okay, much cleaner. We get to the table pretty much right away. We still see the code that we use to get to it, but we can still, it's much clearer to a reader now. Okay, so next, what if your reporters on your team or your editor, they don't really care so much about your code? What you can do is you can pass another argument, and that's, I'm going to create a new R markdown file, call this, you guessed it, chunk3. I'm going to repurpose my code again, keep building on it. And this time, I'm going to say the argument I'm going to give is echo equals false. And that means it'll hide the code, but it'll still display the results of whatever this was, whatever the code gives me. So echo false for each of my chunks. And this time I'm also going to make sure I only portray a handful of columns this time, so it's not too long. So I'll do payroll total and select payroll from the data frame, and I want just name, title, department, and total earnings. And I gotta make sure I pass the right data frame to it, the new data frame we created. Gonna save it, call it 03 chunk, knit that. Oh, you know what? It's because there's a space in the name. So what I need to do is change the names a bit. So call names of payroll is make.names function. It'll replace all the spaces with periods. Okay. Now I can generate, and this should work. Great. Okay, so you see how this could be useful as a report. Your code is no longer included, but it just goes straight to a line talking about introducing what's going on, and then it goes to the table, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 columns this time, so it's much easier for people to browse through. Okay, so let's get even more complicated. Let's do some inline code. What if we want to put some data in the sentence and not have it just spit out stuff? So we want to embed the data into the narrative string of markdown. So what we can do is that'll be called inline code. So let's create a new markdown file called 04 chunk. Oh, actually, chunk 4. And I'm going to keep using my code. Let's see. And this time what I'm going to do is convert it so that the names are sorry, these total earnings, it strips out the $ and the comma, so it comes out as number. So I'm just going to copy and paste some code over. So this G sub takes out the $ and replaces it with nothing. This one takes out the comma and replaces it with nothing, and then converts that column to a number. And I want to figure out the highest paid. So I'm going to start with payroll, and then I'm going to create a new data frame called most pay, and give it payroll total, and arrange in descending order total earnings. I've got total earnings, and I'm going to look at the top one, head 1. So let me just run this real quick. And is it something missing? Oh, most pay is in here. So this is the most pay. So I'm saving this. I'm slicing out the top one by piping it to head, and then saying it's the number. Just give me the first result, and that's saving it as most pay. Okay, so now that is a variable that we can use. I'm sorry, that's an object we can use to pass on. And the way we do that is, and now we can go into the narrative, and now let's type out, let's get rid of this, and type out, let's say, the Boston City employee who was paid the most in 2014 was and now you do a single backtick R to let it know there's some R code coming. And I want it to be most pay, and then who the employee is this person. And I'm going to say name. I'm not going to say the name because it's kind of backwards. I would have to clean it up a bit, but I'll just say it's a title, and then the hashtag, and that backtick, at, and then I can say the department, R, most pay, $, department, enter. Okay, and then I can continue. This person made $ are pretty num most pay, and then total dot earnings, comma big dot mark. So I'm passing it a function called pretty num, which will take a number and then prettify it. It'll turn into like a number that we're used to seeing with the comma and stuff. So big mark, we're gonna add is comma equals, and then scientific equals false. Backtick, enter. So I'm passing this number. Oh, and this needs to be not a $, but a backtick. Okay. So you see how the text changes color a little bit. Okay, and I think that's it. And then we also here's the raw data. Okay, so we'll save this as 04 chunk. Let's see if that worked. Okay, so you see it converted this police officer and then this department, it subbed it in. And then this person made in a pretty mark. And so then I can put change this up a bit, up a $ there. And when I renit it again, $ is there. So this is useful, right? Because what if you get 2015 payroll data? You can just replace this to 2015 and rerun it, and then change the code to change this line from most in 2014 to 2015, and that's it. Everything else is pretty much still filtering for you ahead of time. So what if I wanted to say differently? What if I want to find the person who got paid the least in this year? So then I just get rid of sending, and then I change the language a bit to say who was paid the least, and let's see if that worked. Oh, well, I changed that name. I forgot to put it back. It was what, 2013? Least paid was a teacher at Boston Public Schools. Person made 96. That's wow. That's not bad. Okay. Way to be in Boston. Okay, so now there's another way we can display tables in a cool way, and that's using a cable function from the knitter package. So I'll show you how to do that by creating a new chunk 5 RMD file. And let's just copy and paste all the code here. And look at the department with the highest average pay. And I'll walk you through what's going on. Okay, so first we load the package, warning F, message F, echo F, so we're not including this, the code in our output. We're just running it. And then I'm cleaning the data, so I'm getting rid of, I'm going to all the regular pay, retro pay, other pay, overtime pay, injured pay, detail pay, total earnings. I'm taking out all the $ and the commas, turning them to numbers. And then I'm looking at the top, pulling out the top 5 of all the department. I'm summarizing which department made the most money. Average earnings, and then figuring out the top 5 with that arrange and then head 5. And then I'm using this package called knitter. Make sure you have knitter installed. I'm going to double check, make sure I have it installed. Is a library knitter a thing? It is. Okay, so and then the function is called cable top 5. So I'm going to click this chunk real quick to run all the code above it. It has some NAs, but that's fine, I think. And now I'm going to click plus, and there we go. And so this is how it renders in here, and this is a very specific way to render. It's actually rendered in markdown, so that when I click on knit, I'm going to call this 05 chunk. This is the way markdown will interpret it, right, like this. So it's a very pretty looking table, and this is a better way if you're not saving as HTML, but if you were saving as a PDF, this would be more ideal, because if you're saving a table, an interactive table with our markdown to publish to a PDF, it will fail because it doesn't really know how to handle code like that. So this is a way around that. All right. Okay, so another thing I want to show you is how you can kind of change the theme. So let's create a new chunk. Theme as in colors and fonts and stuff. And you can customize this. So let's do a new markdown. Call this chunk, we're on chunk 6 now. And so there's options automatically in the theme from boot swatch, like default is default, cerulean, journal, Cosmo, and then there's highlights. Highlights is for when you want to change how the code is displayed, because normally it's like what in the gray in here. So I'll show you the difference. And all I'm going to do is just add output. What I need to do, because we're changing some stuff around, you got to be very careful with these tabs, because it's kind of like it's Pythonish in that way, where every space is important. So theme will be United, highlight will be espresso. Echo, echo, echo. Okay, in the analysis part, I'm going to repurpose my old code, but this time in my analysis, I'm going to not get rid of echoes, so we can see what it looks like, what the code looks like rendered. Save this as 06 chunk. And let's see what the update looks like. Okay, so you see the font, and you see now the color of the text is now bluish, and you can see the font is also different as well. So what happens if I got rid of highlight? Just to show you the difference again. See, it's all gray. So highlight gives you a little bit more attention to some of the code that you use. Okay, the last thing I want to show y'all is table of contents. So we're going to call this 07 chunk 7. And in this area, we're going to call it, look at the YAML. And this time we're going to move HTML document down, tab that, because we're passing on some extra options to the HTML documents. We got to add the colon, we got to tab HTML document and another tab, and then we're going to add TOC colon true for table of contents. And we're also going to make this table of contents float. Otherwise it would stay up at the top. So I'll show you what it means when it floats. True. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste this code over. I think it's pretty much the same thing, but you'll see. Save this as 07 chunk. Knit that. So you see here, now you've got these table of contents, and it'll switch down, and it creates table of contents based on the headers that it detects. So this is what it means when it's floating table of contents. So this will always stay on the left even as you're scrolling. So this is nice. And you see Boston employee pay in 2014, departments with the highest pay. It's all because of these headers. So our markdown detects where the headers are, the most important ones, and then generates a table of contents for you that way. So, congrats, you've gone through a lot of different steps to create really cool looking reports out of our markdown. Next steps, you can export as a PDF. It will require some software like LaTeX to be installed first. The link is there on the website. I'm not going to walk through it now because it's kind of an intricate process depending on a PC or Mac. So you'll have to do that on your own. But it will be worth it if you do want to try it. So next, we're going to just talk about a little bit of an R markdown workflow and folders and organization and stuff. All right. Good job.